I'm passionate about.
The future of energy.
And I want to
make a difference.
Let me start by asking you something. Have you ever wondered, what am I doing wrong? I'm working so hard, and yet my colleague has moved twice to exciting new jobs while I'm in the same role still. Or even better, have you ever Googled how to get a promotion or tips to have a more successful career? Well, I sure have. And I've learned a lot about it during my career, and I'm here to pass it on. When I was a child, my parents taught me that I could achieve anything I set my mind to if only I work hard for it. And there I was, proving the correctness of this thesis throughout my school life. I was a very diligent little pioneer growing in Yugoslavia in the last few years of communistic rule. I was doing my homework first thing after school, sitting in the front row, paying attention to everything the teacher said, raising hand when the teacher would ask a question, and consistently that led to being the top of the class with all straight A's. Translated to career, my expectation was that if I put in enough hours of hard work and dedication, that my work will speak for itself and the right people will get to know me and the outcomes of my work and promotions will inevitably follow, right? Well, not quite. Very early in my career, it became clear to me that in working life, there are a few more ingredients missing in that recipe. And as I developed and grew over the years, through trial and error, and through the books I've read and good mentoring tips, I got to learn what they are. And I'm standing here before you today to share my secret formula with you. And my goal is to inspire you to go to your career lab tonight and start experimenting with these new ingredients and fine-tuning them to your personal style and the style of your company until the magic happens and you find the key to unlock the next level of your career. During the next 17 minutes, I will share with you 3 key messages that have helped me accelerate my career and that can help you to achieve the same with yours. First, high performance alone is not enough. The formula to get there has 2 additional ingredients: image and exposure. Second, it is crucial to understand the environment that you're working in, the culture of your company, and to learn how to thrive in it. And third, your career is in your own hands, and you are the key person who can press that gas pedal to accelerate it. So let's zoom into my first and probably the most important message. Performance alone does not equal career success. What does? Pi does. I'm a mathematician and I love formulas. So here's a nice simple formula for you. Career success equals performance plus image plus exposure. Pi. And this is not something that I came up with. It's also not a big secret. A guy called Harvey Coleman described this idea in the book he published in 1996. It's called Empowering Yourself, the Organizational Game Revealed. It is a very useful concept, but it got snowed under so many different useful concepts and so many different books out there, and not many of us are aware of it. At least I wasn't. I got to hear about performance plus image plus exposure from a mentor of mine, just about 3 or 4 years ago. It was a gray, rainy day, as they tend to be in February in the Netherlands, and I arrived to the office feeling rather gloomy because I heard the day before that even though I got a great performance ranking for the previous year, it was not the highest possible that I believed that I deserved. I worked extremely hard the year before. I excelled in all of my initiatives and projects. I delivered above the target. I had my very motivated and inspired team with very high productivity. I had good relationships with my peers. I was active in 2 networks and even volunteered as an assessor for external recruitment in Shell. So in my mind, I ticked all the boxes that should define the outstanding performance. And yet, somehow it wasn't enough. I entered my mentor's office with a coffee in my hand, grabbed a chair and started talking, barely catching a breath. My mentor, a wise man with a C in his title, listened to my story And as I was done getting it off my chest, he made a pause and instead of saying, "Oh, how terrible, poor you," said calmly, "Let me ask you two questions." Not what I was expecting, but fine. And then he said, "First, do you know what is your image, your personal brand? In other words, when people think of you, what are the key things that would come to their mind? And second, do you know who are the key people who influence the decision about your performance ranking? And do they know that you have achieved all of what you just shared with me?" As I was stuttering to answer, he went on to explain how performance is just one factor that leads to career success, and how the other two are image, or what the other people think of you, and exposure to the influential people, and how all three create a perfect pie. Let's dive into each of these pieces of pie. Performance. This is what you do day to day in your job, and what you do on top of it, and the results you deliver, and the quality you deliver them with. It is the key ingredient that determines your career. It's the necessary one. There will surely be no career success, or even career, without solid performance. In most companies, performance ranking graphs have a shape of a bell curve. And they show that 80% of people fall in the middle of that curve as good, solid performers. The other two ingredients, remember, image and exposure, will propel you to move to the higher end of the curve, amongst about 10 to 15% of those higher than the average performers, the stars, as they sometimes get called, who are likely to be offered more opportunities than the others. Let's move to the second point, image. This is what other people think of you. Few key things that come to people's minds when they describe you. Are you seen by most as a very energetic and resilient person? Are you someone who finds opportunities and builds on other people's ideas? Or are you the first to offer roadblocks when other people suggest changes? In other words, what is your personal brand? And if you don't know what it is, it's good to spend some time to explore it. And how to go about it. You can do what I did. You can start with what you think your personal brand is and what you want it to be. And then reach out to several colleagues, those managing you, those you are managing, and your peers, and ask them the question, ask them to describe you. And then compare with your own view, and you will see a clear image starting to show. And you might want to hold on to that image, or you might want to work on changing it towards something that you find more desirable, or something that is more desirable in the environment you're working in. For most of us females, what others think of us will be far more positive than what we tend to think about ourselves. So just do the exercise and you'll find out for yourself. So when I did this exercise, without much deviation, I heard from many people that they see three key aspects of my personal brand. I deliver and drive delivery. I'm an empowering and engaging leader, and I'm an enthusiastic and energetic person. And that became my personal brand, and over time, it might change. Moving to the third point, exposure. This is related to that old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. In any job, some people are influencing the course of your career at the workplace more than the other people. Your manager, the manager of your manager, the peers of your manager, and some of those peers of your manager will be more influential than the others, simply because their image in the company is stronger. So go and map out who those are, and then think about how much they know about you and all the amazing work that you're doing. And then make an action plan. Make it your task for them to know it. Be purposeful about what you're sharing with them, why you're sharing, and also when is a good time to share. And this is where networking and sponsoring also comes into spotlight. As a minimum, ensure that you network with those people. And get them to know you not only based on what you told them about yourself, but actually based on what they see from you. So volunteer, for instance, to do a project in their area, or ask them to mentor you or coach you. And this way, from close by, they can actually see what you're capable of rather than hear from the other people or from yourself. And you will be surprised to see that if you do that well, many of them will not only be your mentors, but will also become your sponsors along the way. So do go and get those sponsors. Now that we learned that for moving your career to the next level, you need high performance, positive image, and exposure to the right people, let's move on to my second message. Not all companies are the same. What leads to success in one will not be the same as in the other. And how well you fit in the environment you work in can determine how successful you can expect to be. Therefore, it is crucial to take time to understand the culture of your company so you can learn to thrive in it while being yourself. So first of all, what is organizational culture? It's the set of written and unwritten rules by which people function to get their work done. It's how people go about work rather than what they do. So when you join a new company, from a cultural point of view, it is similar to getting married into a new family or moving to a new country. So you will encounter new customs, rules, dress code, language, how ideas get presented. And you will need to learn about them in order to do well. You will be accepted and fit into the organization or not. And you will be assessed for compensation and for promotion depending on how well you perform in your company's culture. What is very important is to assess how well your company's culture and its core values fit with your own values. For example, Shell's key values are honesty, integrity, and respect for people, and they're amazingly well aligned with my own personal values. So if your and your company's values are more or less aligned, it will be up to you then to learn the key cultural traits of your company and how to navigate them. For example, communications. Companies differ by how people tend to communicate with each other. Who talks to who? Do people interact with everybody around them at all levels, or they talk only to their peers and maybe their line manager? And what's the channel that they use for communication? Is it mostly email? Do they talk by phone? Do they talk mostly face-to-face? What is the style of the communication that they're using? Is it very formal or it's rather informal? Is it brief or it's very detailed? What kind of language do they use? Do they use a lot of acronyms? If they do, you better learn that language. Decision-making would be another cultural trait that is very important to figure out. So look around you in your company, observe how decisions are being made. Are they made in the formal meetings, really on the spot? Or maybe are they made by the coffee machine before or after the meeting? For me, the most important cultural trait is related to relationship building and networking. And I will tell you a personal story to explain why. In the first company I worked for right after graduating from university, spending time during working hours building relationships with your peers and superiors was considered to be a waste of time, a distraction from real work. It was a relatively small IT company, about 5 years old, with 50 staff in the US who mostly did managerial work, and about 50 staff, including myself, in an offshore center in Belgrade, Serbia. We focused on software coding, testing, and debugging, and what mattered in the job is how quickly and effectively you can write new lines of code, and how well you can optimize them. So the actors in the movie of my first job were me and my machine. No peers, no customers. None of that mattered much to the results I had to deliver in my day-to-day job. And this was actually the main reason I decided to leave, as I couldn't see how the results of my work were making a difference to someone. So I went on to study Masters of Management in IT, as I wanted to remain in IT, but to be able to see it end to end, and to be able to apply to make a difference to society and to customers. And after my master's studies, I joined Shell. Now, Shell is a very different company from the first one I described. It is large and mature, truly international, operating in a very different industry. It's focused on delivering value in a complex environment through applying technology and growing its people. I work for Shell for 11 years now. Enough time to observe that relationship building and networking is probably the most important way to deliver exceptional outcomes, navigate through the matrix organization, and influence people without formal authority. For my personality, this is a match made in heaven. I love meeting people, getting to know them, learning about what they do and how they go about it. But when I first joined Shell, I shied away from reaching out to colleagues during office hours for anything not strictly work-related. Remember? My previous employer saw it as a waste of time. So I filed it in my head as socialization and saved it to something I would do in my own free time, lunch break at best. And the first feedback I got from my first manager in Shell was that I'm doing my job well, but that I'm not showing enough initiative to widen my network and meet my colleagues and peers and people from other departments. And I remember she said, maybe some coffees, lunches, and get to know you sessions would be something to consider starting. Really? I can do what I love doing, be paid for it, and improve my performance by doing so. Ever since I started doing that, my satisfaction at the job skyrocketed, and my career success followed. And of course, this is not only due to networking, but applying it on top of the whole pie formula. And these all have made a major difference in my career, and I have been moving on from one exciting role in Shell into the other faster than I could ever dream of in the past 11 years. And through that fast-paced career, I got to know so many amazing people across all continents. I got to understand the world better through my colleagues from Nigeria, Oman, Kazakhstan, Mexico, Malaysia. And I got to make a positive impact through my work and to travel to very different places, from Borneo Island to Banff in Canada. And moving on from one opportunity to the next, I got to learn so much about leadership, about technology, about people, and about myself. And this is what keeps me motivated to show up at work with a smile every single day. Let's now move to my third and final message for today. You hold the keys to your career success. You define what it is for you by balancing it together with other things that matter in life to you. For example, your personal happiness, your inner peace and joy, time with your family. Your career is in your own hands, and you are the main person who can press that gas pedal to accelerate it. And surely there will be many people that you will encounter along the way that will help you, teach you, coach you, pull you up when you fall, and sponsor you to get to that next job you want. But it is you, and only you, who will get those people to want to help you and coach you and pull you up and sponsor you. And how will you get them to do that? By being yourself, by being authentic, bringing your passion to work, bringing your full self to work, by being open to learn and experiment, and by finding joy in what you're doing, and not just blindly focusing on moving up the career ladder. And by applying some of the tools that you learned here, by understanding your company culture and learning to thrive in it, and by becoming the master of the whole pie, not just the performance part of it. Now it is up to you to decide what you want your career to be like and apply the tools we just covered to get there. As Anna Wintour said, people respond well to those that are sure of what they want. Thank you.